Moving on now, US President Donald Trump says he has not yet decided whether to impose new sanctions on Russia, currently under consideration in the US Senate. The proposed bill would impose stiff sanctions on Russia and secondary sanctions on countries that trade with Russia over its war in Ukraine. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said he would enforce the measures if he believes they are necessary. Here is what the president had to say.
You know the bill. I studied the bill. We're to see, and if I think Russia will not be making a deal, stopping the bloodshed, 5 and 6, even I've been saying 5 and 6, and now it's more. 1,000 a week soldiers being killed and people being killed. Not just soldiers, people being killed, but largely soldiers being killed. I'd use it if it's necessary, and they've really given me that option.
Meanwhile, Russian strikes on the Ukrainian cities of Kherson and Kharkiv have killed at least 5 people. According to Regional Governor Alexander Prokudin, a strike on a high-rise building in Kherson killed a couple, while in Kharkiv another 3 people were killed and at least 17 wounded in what Mayor Igor Terekov called the most powerful attack on his city since the start of the war. In recent weeks, Russian troops have reportedly accelerated their advance, while the latest negotiations in Istanbul failed to broker an end to the 3-year war. This comes after Russia launched an intense missile and drone barrage at the Ukrainian capital Kyiv on Friday, killing at least 6 people and wounding at least 80 others. The attacks followed a warning from Russian President Vladimir Putin, conveyed via US President Donald Trump, that the Kremlin would hit back after Ukrainian drones destroyed several strategic bomber aircraft in attacks deep inside Russia. Well, several developments in recent hours. Joining us to discuss them, Gautam Mukherjee, a senior journalist. Gautam, as always, thank you ever so much for joining us on the programme. Let's first look at Trump's statements over sanctions on Russia. There has been pressure from world leaders for America to do so, the EU imposing several sanctions in recent weeks and months. Why do you think Trump is currently stalling on taking that next step of action?
Well, Trump is not interested in a ceasefire for a ceasefire's sake. He has put a lot of Russians into the war. Many have died. He has lost a lot of equipment. He has spent 3 years fighting this war, and he intends to leave with gains. So part of that is territory, which up to now Ukraine has not said very much about. The attacks that are happening deep inside Russia seem to have the backing of the United States and the NATO countries, and this is dangerous for in terms of what Russia might do to retaliate. As far as sanctions go, to try and make Russia stop the war, they are not going to be effective. As far as whether they will, cramp Russian style in terms of its economy, that remains to be seen. Mostly sanctions everywhere have been bypassed. They've been bypassed by Iran, they've been bypassed by Russia in the past, and there is no reason why they won't do so. As far as sanctioning countries that deal with Russia, for example, India buys 39% of its oil from Russia. I don't think they are going to stop either. And India is also contemplating buying various armaments from Russia, including those which are in the pipeline and yet to be delivered. All this will not stop. So how effective sanctions might be is anybody's guess.
Yes, Gautam, let's now move to further strikes and military action that we've seen following that deep drone assault, Operation Spider's Web, that you've already alluded to. Of course, Vladimir Putin spoke with Donald Trump, the US president revealing that the Russian president said that he would be forced to respond. We've seen these strikes overnight in Kharkiv, which are reportedly the largest strike since the start of the war. Also deaths reported in Kherson. This a day after, on Friday, huge strikes across Ukraine, also targeting the capital Kyiv. Do you think this is the start of Russian responses to those drone attacks, or do you think there could be further widespread strikes across Ukraine in retaliation to Operation Spider's Web?
Well, Ukraine has quite an effective air shield, which is preventing Russian bombers from entering Ukrainian airspace. As far as drones and missiles that have got through, they are a fraction of what was thrown at Ukraine. So either Russia takes it up the escalation ladder and starts using hypersonic missiles in the main, including ones which are too fast for the air defenses to stop. This is not going to result in very much damage in Ukraine. Last night, 30 missiles and 400 drones really haven't done very much to Ukraine. And so more of the same will not achieve any proper objective in terms of retaliating for the damage done to the Russian planes and submarines. So they have to take it a jot higher if they are, likely to achieve their ambition of, doing serious damage to Ukraine. Whether they will do so or not remains to be seen, because going up the escalation ladder could result in going up the escalation ladder for Ukraine as well. Of course, Ukraine has achieved its objectives very spectacularly in Spiderweb, using very low-tech drones and ordinary explosives. So they haven't used high-tech weaponry like Russia may be forced to do. But if Russia does use this high-tech weaponry, then they can expect escalation on the Ukrainian side as well.
Yes, and Gautam, to bring an end to our conversation, you talk about the escalation ladder there. We have, of course, aside from Operation Spider's Web, seen significant Ukrainian strikes in Russia. This, of course, also in the moment where direct talks are taking place. We've had 2 rounds of direct discussions in Istanbul. How detrimental could these continuing escalating strikes be for the wider peace effort and the wider geopolitical stability?
Well, I think it's already derailed the talks. And as long as, this kind of intensive warfare from both sides continues, the talks are meaningless. Putin has already said, I don't care about the talks. And as far as Zelensky making his demands, stop this, 30 days, 60 days, I don't think he's connecting with the Russians. The Russians are ignoring all that and will continue to ignore it as long as the fighting is in effect intensified. As you know, Ukraine has struck the bridge going to Crimea. It has struck several other bridges in Russian-held territories. What Ukraine is trying to do is difficult to ascertain if they're trying to achieve peace with Russia, because the kind of attacks that Ukraine has successfully pulled off have shown months and years of planning, and they don't seem to be pulling back. And Russians are renowned for going the distance, no matter how much the punishment to their troops and equipment is in the meantime.
Gautam Mukherjee, thank you ever so much for providing that insight. We will, of course, continue to bring you all of the developments from the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. But we move on now, and tensions between